If you want Colts talk all year long, you're in the right place. This is the official Colts Podcast, giving you an updated look at what's new with the Horseshoes.
He's got it! Touchdown! Jack Doyle! And he's going to be brought down inside the 15, and it's going to go to DeForest Buckner. Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's going to go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
From the Power Home Solar Studio, let's get the podcast started.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the Colts Official Podcast. And let me date this show, Larra Overton, Matt Taylor, who are joining me today on this podcast. Let me date this show by saying Happy St. Patty's Day.
Happy St. Patty's Day. Indeed. A lot happening.
Maytay, Happy St. Patty's Day. I know you'll be down at Long Acres later on tonight having some corned beef and cabbage, right?
Yeah, either Long Acre or the Colonial Inn or Robbie's Pub right down the street. There are no wrong answers on a day like today.
Find Matt Taylor on St. Patty's Day. You'll have fun. Larra Overton. I'm Jeffrey Gorman. Larra, by the way, wearing green today. I am not. Okay. Friendly reminder, it's busy around here. It is the day.
I hadn't heard.
It's a holiday, but it is a big holiday in the NFL. And a quick reminder before we get to that, PointsBet Sportsbook. You know them, proud sportsbook partner of the Indianapolis Colts. And a faster, easier way to bet is now live with their college basketball tournament promo, and that is upon us. Check this out. Bet $20.
And it's happening here.
Right here in
it.
Indianapolis. Bet $20 on any tournament game, and you get $150 in free bets, regardless if you win or lose. That is something that you want to sign up with, and you do that with the promo code COLTSMM, and you start betting. Again, COLTSMM, and start betting. Listen, I want to talk. You know me. You guys can't shut me up sometimes, but sometimes you got to kind of take
Sometimes,
Maytay, you got to take a step left or a step right or in the back seat and let other people talk, okay? And just minutes ago, Matt Taylor, voice of the Colts, Larra Overton, and myself, we had a chance to catch up with Chris Ballard, the Colts general manager, and talk about the biggest impact, obviously, the big move that becomes official today. Here's Chris Ballard from earlier today. A very busy man joins us now, the general manager of the Colts, Chris Ballard. I know we're right in the thick of things, so I'm just going to get right at it, Chris. Carson Wentz. We know the relationship between Frank Reich and Carson Wentz working together in Philadelphia, but you as the general manager, what did you like when you looked at this guy as a leader as well as what he does on the field?
Well, you know, I followed Carson. I mean, when I was in Kansas City, we really liked Carson. We did a bunch of work on him. You know, once he started really rising up the board, we had, you know, because we weren't going to ever be able to get close enough to get him. But we thought Carson was going to be a great pro coming in. And then, you know, starting his career, when you go back to the 2017 season when he was playing at an MVP level, there's a lot to get excited about. And then reuniting him back with Frank, who has shown and proven that anytime he gets his hands on a quarterback that he's already had a relationship with, there's a good chance it's going to be a good marriage and we're going to have success. So I thought it was a good risk for us to take.
Chris, how much of a priority was it going into this offseason to establish stability at the quarterback position with a young quarterback like Carson Wentz, who very well could have and looks to have the best football still ahead of him?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like last year with Phillip. You know, it was kind of a unique opportunity, you know, with his relationship with Nick and Frank. And then we get another unique opportunity presented to us with one who has a connection with Frank. So, you know, we think we've got a young quarterback who still has upside and growth. And we think Frank and the offensive staff will get the best out of him.
That's Chris Ballard with us, and obviously, like you said, you know Carson Wentz very well. There's a high belief in him to come in and play at a high level with the Colts. Chris, when he's going well, what does that look like? What are Carson's biggest strengths as a quarterback?
Well, I've kind of said this from day one that you need them all. You know, you need all 11 going well offensively, you know, for the quarterback to work. Everybody has a job to do, but, you know, Carson is big, he's strong, he's athletic. He's got a very good arm, and he can create and make plays on the run, which is something you always like. I mean, that puts pressure on the defense. So those are things that we like. There's things that Carson's got to clean up, which we know he'll work on and do. And I think Frank will put Carson in a position to do what he does well.
Chris, in the immediacy of the reports of the trade, we saw tons of social media reaction from the guys in this locker room welcoming Carson Wentz, excited about Carson Wentz becoming an Indianapolis Colt. And we've already seen him getting to work, the posts on Instagram, connecting with Michael Pittman and Desmond Patman. When you also look at the offensive line that he will work with, this run game, all of the wealth of weapons that he has, what do you envision for this offense in 2021 under Carson Wentz?
Well, look, I'll say this about our team and our guys. We've got a really special group of men here that no matter what's happened anywhere else, I think they know the type of people we're bringing in. So they're very accepting, and they want to win. And unequivocally, they want to win. But adding a quarterback that can make some plays on the run, that already has a familiarity with the offense, should, and I don't think you could understate that. I mean, we saw the same thing last year with Phillip. A lot of times when, you bring a new player in, it takes some time, and it took a little time for Phillip, but he knew the offense. Now it's just getting accustomed to knowing who he's playing with and what we're asking each guy to do. But no, we're excited. We're excited about Carson. We're excited to get him on this team, and really, get our hands on him and see how we can progress this offense to another level.
Last one from me, Chris, then I think we'll cut you loose because I know your time is very valuable, especially this time of year. But you've mentioned Frank a handful of times. How much did Frank matter? How much value does Frank have in this trade, and how much confidence do you have in Frank's ability to coach the best out of Carson because he knows him from a prior stop with Philadelphia, kind of similar to last year with his work with Phillip Rivers, who came over from San Diego and the Los Angeles Chargers?
Well, look, I have ultimate trust in Frank. I mean, whatever he has, he's gonna make sure he gets the most out of each and every player and do what they can do well. He's not going to put them in positions to where they're not going to succeed, and I think that's what makes some of the real unique coaches, offensive coaches in this league. That's what they do, and Frank is really special at it. Him and the offensive staff, they're going to figure out what our guys can do and put them in position to succeed. And I think they'll do the same thing with Carson. They'll put Carson in a position to do what he does well, and why I think there's a high chance of success.
Indeed. Chris, thanks so much for the time. We really appreciate it. Again, we know how busy you are, and congratulations on the trade, and good luck the rest of the offseason and free agency heading into the draft.
No, thank you. I appreciate y'all having me on.
We got a little bit of juice right there from Ballard. I wanted to go deeper on, hey, where else are we looking on the free agent market? But you know how Chris likes to sit in the weeds a little bit, see how things are going. But most importantly, Larra, we can talk about it. Matt, we can talk about it. Carson Wentz, the former Philadelphia Eagle, is now the leader of the Colts offense.
It is so great to finally be able to really delve into this topic and to have Carson, soon to be introduced here in Indianapolis into his new fan base. And there's so much excitement surrounding this. Not only are we eager to hear from Carson, we're eager to hear from Frank Reich as well and be able to go into all of what, as we alluded to when we spoke with Chris, what exactly this offense will look like and how it will take shape, because there are a ton of elements that Carson Wentz brings that we have not had in terms of a quarterback in these last two go-rounds with, some of the mobility that he has and different aspects like that. So he brings so much into the locker room. He brings so much into this offense. And based on what we saw, Frank's ability to bring Phillip Rivers to an elite form after the season that he had in 2019 gives me great optimism, as Chris discussed as well, for seeing Carson Wentz back to that NFL MVP form that we saw prior to when he was hurt. And in this situation, he comes into having this incredible offensive line with a left tackle to be named, but an incredible run game led by Jonathan Taylor and, of course, Nyheim Hines as well. So there is a ton of excitement right now and a reason for great optimism because you have now secured this quarterback position for what you expect to be the foreseeable future.
Mate, officially, we've been dodging this for the last couple of weeks on the Last Word and the
We've
podcast.
been doing a good job of that, by the way. We have to commend
officially,
ourselves.
yeah, it's official. Now, Carson Wentz is a Colt. He is the leader of this offense, and Larra spoke about it, the leadership qualities off the field. That is something that I don't know. I mean, that's something that has to be organic and with his teammates and everything. But off the locker room issue, just by the way that this young man plays the game, and we heard about it, what Chris Ballard said in 2017, the MVP-like caliber that he was playing at. What do you like about this with the reunion with Frank, and as Larra said, got some great weapons around this quarterback?
Yeah, I echo everything that Larra had to say, and it's, by the way, just so nice to be able to talk about this. We've been talking about this sort of behind the scenes. But
that one guy that we might sign, but it's not official, but he could be playing quarterback. That guy, yeah, those days are done.
So I just think from a broad standpoint, this just continues to give the Colts, in terms of the franchise, the program, the team, it just continues this momentum that they have after an 11-5 season last year. They are, I think it sends a message to the fan base, everybody associated with the Colts, that they believe they can win now, continue to win now. They've got the pieces in place to build off a playoff appearance last year, and I was very much in favor of this move because the Colts are getting a player that they are very familiar with because of Frank Reich and Press Taylor and Mike Groh, those guys on the staff. Carson Wentz has proved that he can play at a very, very high level on Sundays. Obviously, he's coming off a down season in 2020. By his standards, Chris alluded to that, but the Colts are very confident in Frank Reich's ability. We heard that, how many times in that 5-minute conversation that we had earlier today with Chris Ballard, mentioning Frank Reich, his ability to work with quarterbacks, especially a quarterback he already knows, and put him in the best positions possible. Frank did the exact same thing last year with Phillip Rivers. Rivers had an up-and-down 2019 season, and Frank was able to iron a lot of Phillip's stuff out. And I love how patient the Colts were in making this trade. They were fiscally sound in what they gave up to get Carson Wentz in this trade. Larry, we've talked about this on and off the air. They hang on to their first-round pick, their second-round pick in 2021 coming up in April. That gives them a ton of flexibility to upgrade the roster at a lot of other key areas outside of quarterback. And again, this is not a draft pick. This is not a projection. This is not a guess. This is not a roll of the dice and a gamble. This is a guy that you know, that you have a ton of intel on. Again, with Frank Reich and Press Taylor and Chris Ballard, you know what you're getting here. You already know this guy can play at a very, very high level on Sundays. He's already proven that. This is sort of like the DeForest Buckner trade where you're getting a bona fide player. Again, the best part about doing it is that you hang on to premium picks for the immediacy, the near future, and this is not a draft pick where you're hoping it works out. This is a guy that you already know can play at a very, very high level on NFL Sundays.
He is going to cost the Colts a number one draft choice in 2022 if he plays up to the level that Chris Ballard, Frank Reich, and Jim Irsay are expecting of him. So, yeah, it is a little bit of that thing. But I wanted to ask
Larry. You know what, though? If that happens, then you're picking in the low 20s, early 30s, hopefully.
Sure.
And then by that point, no one's going to care that you gave up a first-round pick because that means the Colts are back in the playoffs and they're continuing this franchise momentum. And so from that standpoint, if that happens, it will absolutely have been worth the compensation.
Hats off to this question goes to both of you, but hats off to Phillip Rivers first and foremost. And the reason I'm bringing that man up is he did it his way. He put footballs in small windows, just the only way that he could. But one thing he didn't have, guys, the mobility. You know what I mean? He's never been known as a guy who was like Michael Vick and could, take off with the ball. So I'm asking both of you, the difference in quarterbacks from last year to this year, we do have the legs. Chris talked about him moving the football with the legs as well. How that's different from Phillip. And the offense as a whole. He's not going into a foreign offense, if you will. He knows this offense. So I just want to talk about the familiarity, but also the differences between last year's quarterback and what we have in this year with Carson Wentz.
Well, you mentioned, the mobility and at least some component of escapability in that and how critical that has become with the way that NFL offenses, and defenses for that matter, the way that they're able to, attack quarterbacks and pressure quarterbacks. But the other thing that you have with Carson Wentz that you didn't have is the youth of Carson Wentz, a quarterback who's not yet 30 years old. He is still approaching what should be the prime of his career. So there's that longevity aspect of it too. If he's able to continuously stay healthy and be consistent in that regard. I talked with a number of different people in preparation for Carson Wentz's arrival in Indianapolis, and the comparisons that I have heard, what to expect when he comes in is you look at the 2017 Eagles offense, of course, which he ran prior to that season-ending injury. Mix that with 2018 Andrew Luck. And kind of merge those two things together. All of that makes sense. I mean, does that not excite you for what that possibility brings? Now, of course, you still have some areas that you're going to need to support and supplement him. He's already, we mentioned this, getting to work with Desmond Patman and Michael Pittman. They've already gotten together. So he's already keying on those big body receivers who he's going to be able to utilize. But this does give you another element. This will allow you to open up that playbook a little bit deeper. The other thing to keep in mind, too, you've now brought Marcus Brady in as your offensive coordinator. So what additional element does that look like? We know that Coach Reich has always been collaborative, and you do have, of course, the lineage from what this offense looked like in Philadelphia. Well, now you also bring in addition to, Coach Groh and Coach Taylor, you mentioned those guys, now you also have Marcus Brady and Scott Milanovic and what they bring into the mix from their experiences. So now you're also going to start crafting some different things with the knowledge that they have as well. And you have a quarterback who brings a greater ability to execute some things differently than you had with Jacoby Brissett even prior to Phillip Rivers.
Hey, Matt, is this the type of quarterback you see as what happened in Philadelphia, what happened with Doug Peterson and Jeffrey Lurie, the owner, kind of a revamp, kind of a redo in Philadelphia? Is this a perfect scenario where a good player needs a different zip code?
Perhaps.
Well, I ask you, I'm sorry to interrupt. Is it Jalen Hurts? Is it his train to run now?
In Philadelphia?
That's what I'm at. I know, we're in Indianapolis here, but it sounds like that's what it is. When you trade somebody like Carson Wentz, who's brought the success and the Super Bowl titles like he has in a short period of time, and then to go through what he went through last year with the benching from Doug Peterson and the offseason trade, it's just kind of like things are pointing up to, hey, they're going to go with the former Alabama-Oklahoma quarterback.
Yeah, they absolutely are. That was the edict from ownership when this move was made. They were not shy about that. But
the reason I say wow, Matt, and I'm sorry to interrupt again, but don't you think there has to be a chip on this quarterback's shoulder coming from the scene that he did in Philadelphia to this sort of rebirth in Indianapolis? Am I wrong there?
No, I mean, I think it's human nature to want to prove to people in Philadelphia, across the NFL landscape, people like us that follow it, the fans, people that cover it, to prove that you can be the quarterback that you were in 2017 and 18. He's had some injuries. Obviously, again, last year did not go very well. He was sacked 50 times. I think he's going to be incredibly motivated to come in here and play well and to prove some people wrong. There's, over the course of a game, there are roughly 65 to 70 offensive snaps per game. And it's human nature as the season got worse for the Eagles to try and impress and to do more and feel like you have to shoulder all of this responsibility to make a play on every single play. He doesn't have to do that here. He doesn't have to be the hero on every play. As Larra said, the Colts have a running back in Jonathan Taylor and a running game with 4 of the 5 offensive linemen returning from the last couple years. I mean, he has to basically do his part. He has to play at a high level, don't get me wrong, but he doesn't have to feel like he has to make a play on every single time he touches the ball. Like I said, that offensive line last year, they had a lot of injuries. They weren't protecting very well. He took those 50 sacks in 12 games. I don't think it's going to be hard for Carson Wentz to come in, listen, buy in, and be receptive to this coaching staff, and he's going to be motivated, again, to prove a lot of doubters wrong that the season that he had last year is not indicative of the type of player that he is.
Matt, when we heard from Coach Reich in that combine availability, of course there was no combine, but that similar time frame, if he would have spoken at combine, he was available. And so there were a lot of kind of roundabout questions that kind of had to be asked in regards to the quarterback situation that now we can address firsthand. But a lot of them were in regards to confidence, the mentality aspect of it, that coupled, perhaps his confidence is rocked. If that is the case, much of that is speculation. But let's just say, if you look at the mental aspect of it, and then also with the injuries that Carson came off of, that he has kind of battled through, there were some analysts that had said he perhaps had picked up maybe some bad habits or just some tendencies because of things that he had to change or do differently because he was compensating for those things. What are the areas that you're honing in on that, hey, these were weaknesses that were shown over the course of 2020 that will immediately be those aspects that Frank Reich hones in on and is like, okay, let's break you out of X, Y, and Z, because one of the things that Coach honed in on was you go back to the basics. You make it easy. You simplify. And that seems to be the roadmap that he used with Andrew Luck to bring him back to the success he had in 2018.
Yeah, no, great question. I don't pretend to be, Jordan Palmer or some of these quarterback gurus, these quarterback experts.
You're handsomer, though, than Jordan Palmer. Don't you worry about it.
I don't know about that, Matt. I don't know.
I can get.
That's a striking young man.
I think from, again, a very broad view, you could argue that, just watching, you could see that Carson maybe got a little bit deliberate at times with his reads, didn't sense the rush well, got loose with the ball. Fumbles were a problem in Philadelphia. And again, as the Eagles season continued to slide, it just looked like he was trying to force the issue as the losses mounted collectively as a team. So the Colts, they don't make this move unless they were confident in Carson Wentz and confident in Frank Reich's ability to coach him up. Frank was with him every single day in Philadelphia when things were going well, coached him up at a very high level. Frank has this great ability to be a coach, but also a mentor and sort of a partner at the same time. He's going to coach the player. He's going to coach the person. He's not going to necessarily coach the position. It doesn't work for everybody. He's going to know what buttons to push. He's going to know how to motivate Carson Wentz to get the best out of him for the team's sake. So it's a very collaborative coaching style that the Colts use under Frank Reich. Everybody's going to be involved. We've heard about Press Taylor and Mike Groh and Marcus Brady. Everybody kind of chips in with input to get the best into the game plan. And I think it's just going to be, so healthy for Carson to be reunited with Frank Reich in a new system, in a new city. Everything's kind of brand new. The refresh button has been pushed. I'm just really excited about this because I think on paper it makes a ton of sense for the Colts to make this move. You mentioned he's under the age of 30, but he still has a tremendous high ceiling. And again, it just continues this forward momentum that the Colts have. Now they have stability potentially at quarterback, and you can say that for the first time really since Andrew Luck retired in August of 2019.
Speaking of Luck, you guys know I talked to Clyde Christensen a lot, quarterback coach of the Tampa Bay Bucks, the world champion. So a couple of weeks ago, I said, hey, you've scouted this guy coming out of college. You scouted him as a professional. You've seen this. Who is this guy, Carson Wentz? And Clyde didn't wait. He didn't miss a beat, and he said, he's Andrew Luck. He's got the qualities of Andrew Luck.
I completely agree with that.
He's a mold of Andrew Luck. The way he plays the game, similar with his legs, with his strong arm, don't forget.
Does he have a book club?
That's right. That's what we got to find out about the smarts of it. So we might have to do that. Now listen, before we go to JJ Stankevitz and you say, hey, who's JJ Stankevitz? Well, I'm going to tell you who JJ is. He is the new Colts media member right here. He'll be writing about the Colts on Colts.com. You will see him.
He's the only JJ you need to follow.
That's it. Formerly from Chicago. He formerly covered the Irish and the Bears. But we're going to get a chance to meet up with him and see what his take is on this free agency, but that's in a minute. First off, guys, we're on Wednesday. We're on March 17th. We're on the opening day of the NFL league year, if you will, where everything can be announced. Are you... Mayte, are you surprised? Because all the social media and all the websites and message boards are saying, Chris Ballard, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why aren't there players in our stable now?
It's like, are you new here?
Right.
Where have you been the past 3-4 years?
Go ahead, Larry. Larra, preach.
Oh, I mean, look, I'm going through and I'm reading our friend Zach Kiefer and his article here from The Athletic, and he's quoting Chris Ballard. And there are a lot of things that you respect so much about Chris Ballard, but one of them is the consistency, right? He always shoots you straight, and he is always he sticks to what works. And what he said when he was introduced as the general manager of this team in January 2017, he said, we want to be a great drafting team. We want to have a sound structure and foundation in place where we're producing players every year for the Colts. We'll get into free agency a little bit, but we will not. Like I said earlier, you can't buy a locker room. You have to be very careful when you enter free agency. You don't win games in March.
Hello, New England.
I mean, that's a whole nother situation.
I know. So, I'm not saying New England. Bill Belichick,
here's
I get
what I'm going to
it,
bring up from that, too. So Kiefer goes into a lot of it. It's a great article if you have some time and, as you're awaiting the Carson Wentz introductory press conference and you're sitting there scrolling through your feed.
Yeah,
this
read
is a good
Kiefer.
one.
He's a good one.
This is a good one. Oh, there are a lot of good ones out there. We can't even go through the list. JJ, of course, among those. But one thing to keep in mind, I get it that people are excited and you want to see moves made and all of this. But what Kiefer astutely points out that you have to keep in mind, 3 players drafted in 2018, and these are foundational players.
These guys
Darius Leonard,
Yep.
Darius Leonard, Nyheim Hines in that mix, Braden Smith. And then you also have, the draft pick Quentin Nelson from that year. You get a little bit more time with him because you're going to have the 5th-year option. So that gives you a little bit of wiggle room there. All right, so here's what you want. Here's my question to you, Colts fans. Do you want all of these big knee-jerk reaction moves immediately to win Twitter on the first day of free agency? Or do you want to see Darius Leonard here and play his career in Indianapolis?
Smith.
Do you want to see your quarterback protected with guys like Braden Smith and Quentin Nelson? Do you want Nyheim Hines doing backflips in your end zone for the next 3-4 years? Yes, I think that you do. So everybody, just take a breath and calm down.
Love what you're saying.
Just wait.
Larry,
there's going to be bargains out there in terms of production and what you can get for that production because, look at wide receiver right now, right? Look at wide receiver. The market, as we sit here and talk right now on this Wednesday, there aren't a lot of contracts going for wide receivers at the moment because, again, for the second year in a row, the depth in the draft looks to be pretty good at wide receiver. There are some deals to be made on good players that you can get potentially at much cheaper contracts because I think there's going to be more supply. But also, too, remember, the salary cap has gone way down, 8%, which 8% is 8%. That is a huge number in terms of the overall money that teams can spend comparative to years past. We're routinely now used to seeing the salary cap go up $5 to $10 million every single year.
More money.
Dropped $16 million in 1 year and floored out at about $182.5 million. That's a tremendous thing, and we're seeing teams have to shed players and shed contracts to be cap compliant by the start of the new league year, which is today. The Colts don't have to do that because they're so fiscally sound. They don't believe in signing bonuses. They don't have to cut players around this time. They don't have a lot of dead cap money. I know we're kind of getting into the weeds of the business of football right now, but bottom line, the Colts do such a good job of putting value on every single player, whether it's a
sign your own, Matt. Sign your own.
Sign your own, extend your own, draft well, and then it's a good problem to have in 3 or 4 years when that epic 2018 draft class is come up and you have to make hard decisions, yes, but you'd rather be in that position than whiff on majority of the draft picks, which obviously Chris Ballard does not do.
One tweet that I saw that gives a good perspective on the national landscape around the league. Diana Rossini tweeted earlier today, just spoke with the GM who is in the market for a wide receiver. I asked him why so many of these good receivers are still on the market. He explained many of these wide receivers are asking for double-digit money, and it seems not a lot of teams are biting.
It's a lot of wide receivers. It's a lot of number twos looking for number one money. That's how it goes.
Right, and it's a great year, Matt and Larra, that if you do want to get paid, you sign another 1-year deal or a new 1-year deal with the team that you want to play for and can be, successful with. And then next year when the salary cap goes up, there's more money to be spread around. So if you're an idiot like me, folks, I'm going to explain what Larra and Matt just said in about 30 seconds. There's about $50 million left in the salary cap, under the salary cap to spend. But as Larra and, through Zach Kiefer, unfortunately, he's a great writer. He fortunately points out, you've got to sign Braden Smith. You have to sign Darius Leonard. You have to sign an extension for Nyheim Hines.
Do you want Jonathan Taylor to keep running like he has been?
That money will
be one of the most productive backs in the league?
That money will come from the $50 million plus that we sit 4th overall in available cap space. So you've got to pay those contracts out of that. So That's why you don't see the big free agent signings or the big this or that. I mean, we've got big signings coming up. Don't worry, Chris Ballard knows better than most, sits in the weeds, waits for the bargains to come. They'll be there. But the splash ones, the winning Twitter signs this year, it's not a good year for that. It's not going to happen like that. Sign your own, as we said. Extend the guys that you crafted, that you drafted, and are going to be doing it for years to come. So that's it in layman's term, basically. We're not done. It just started today, and this team will look different. So now time to convert and go to a media member who we have not spoken to yet, but he is officially on the Colts bandwagon, covering this football team on Colts.com. You can see him on the app as well, and maybe some TV and radio shows, and we're going to introduce him on the pod. Right now, I want to say hello and a big Indianapolis welcome to JJ Stankevitz. JJ, how are you today?
I am wonderful, Jeffrey. Thank you for having me on. This is my debut, and
yes,
I'm going to go ahead and say not the most important debut involving the Colts today.
No, but you're on the clock, bro. All eyes and ears are on you, so you have to shine today. JJ Stankevitz, new writer for Colts.com. You'll see him on the TV. You'll see him on the radio. You'll see him on your web pages.
Oh, we'll see him on the radio? That's good.
Formerly, now watch
awesome.
this. Now watch this. I love to do this. I kind of dissect careers. He covered the Bears, who just so happened Kyle Fuller, they may get rid of him today. So I'm telling, JJ, call your folks and maybe talk to Kyle Fuller. And watch this. He covered the Irish. Were you there when when Quentin was there?
I sure was. I saw the development of a powerful, bulldozing interior offensive lineman when he was at Notre Dame. I remember he stepped in a game against Clemson in 2015 when he was a redshirt freshman, and Deshaun Watson was playing for Clemson. It was this incredible football game. And I remember going back and watching that and be like, holy cow, this Quentin Nelson guy's really good. And it just took off from there.
No shock that he went, top 5 or top 10 in the draft and going where he did out of Notre Dame. Again, JJ Stankevitz, one of the new writers for the Colts media team, formerly worked for the Bears and the Irish. So we're just kind of throwing you in right here. I don't even know if you've moved to Indianapolis yet because you're fresh here. You're very fresh, but you've got a new quarterback. Actually, the Colts do, but you have a new quarterback to cover in Carson Wentz. Just give me the roundabout. What's your first thought about what happened last year with the Colts and Phillip Rivers' retirement and then acquiring Carson Wentz?
Here's the common thread that I see. I see what the Colts did last year between Frank Reich and Nick Sirianni with Phillip Rivers, having that prior relationship with him, right, from 2013 to 2015 with the Chargers, that really paid off. You could see how much more comfortable Phillip got in that offense. I remember, I covered the Bears-Colts game in Chicago, and, that wasn't maybe the most exciting offensive game of the year, but then going and seeing where the Colts were in week 4 to where they were later in the season with Phillip and that offense kind of clicking, you can see how Frank Reich can work with quarterbacks with whom he has an existing relationship. And spinning that now forward to Carson Wentz, I think that is the thing I go back to when I look at this trade is when the last time Frank Reich and Carson Wentz were together, Carson Wentz would have won the MVP in 2017 had he not suffered that knee injury in week 14. So that existing relationship, look, that stuff matters. In the NFL, fit matters so much. Those relationships matter. And, Frank knows how to tailor an offense to Carson, and Carson knows how to communicate with Frank on the sidelines, in the film room, all these different things. That is going to give the Colts a really good chance, I think, to make this a successful relationship.
I'm going to go back to back on questions for you, so you're going to be stuck with me for a minute here, JJ. But bringing the perspective that you do from Chicago, one of the things we've really harped on, and we asked Chris Ballard about this earlier in the podcast, was how critical it was to establish consistency at the quarterback position. What perspective can you share based on what you saw unfold with the Bears quarterback situation over the past few years, the Jay Cutler to the Mitchell Trubisky? We saw Nick Foles in there a little bit. Now they've signed Andy Dalton. How solid of a move was this, and how critical of a move was this, having the experience that you do from covering other teams that have struggled to find that quarterback stability that is so necessary?
I will say this in the Bears' defense. They tried to find that stability. Jerry Angelo took a big swing on Jay Cutler. Ryan Pace took a big swing on Mitch Trubisky. And to find quarterback stability, often it takes big swings. The Colts, in making this trade, are taking a swing at quarterback stability, like you mentioned, Larra. And I think that when you look at the landscape of the NFL, it's really hard to find that quarterback stability. And obviously, Colts fans know that the Colts have had quarterback stability for a very long time between Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck. I think Carson Wentz gives him a really good shot at quarterback stability based on what I was just talking about with that relationship with Frank Reich. And, you guys are talking to Chris Ballard on this podcast, and that's the thing he kept going back to, was the relationship with Frank and having that complete trust in Frank Reich to provide the right structure around Carson. And that's where it goes to, right? Is having that proper structure, the proper fit. I think sometimes around the NFL, people get caught up in the term system quarterback. Well, like every quarterback who's successful is a system quarterback to an extent because they're in the right system. And I think if you look at what the Colts have, and hearing what Chris Ballard said, I think there are a lot of reasons to believe the Colts have the right system for Carson Wentz.
The next question I have is in regards to this strong Chicago pipeline that has been developed, because you're just the latest in a long line of people.
We do have a farm club there.
We do.
We have a farm club in Chicago.
We have our vice president, Dave Knickerbocker, who, of course, leads our department, and he kind of got the ball rolling. He comes from Chicago and into the Colts complex. He brings along with him Matthew Dominic, and now you have joined from Chicago coming into Indianapolis. However, you married into a Colts family. So this is appeasing several people within your home. What was your Colts connection even prior to taking this job? And how much influence did a very integral person in your life have in your move to join us here with the Indianapolis Colts?
Yeah, so I married into a Colts family. My wife is a diehard Colts fan, Betsy, and she is... When we started dating, she told me, okay, look, if you want to see me on Sundays, you're going to have to come watch the Colts with me. So we went to this bar called Mullins, which no longer exists, right by Wrigley Field in Chicago. And we would go there every week to watch the Colts. And I started to get an inkling of, man, like these Colts fans, they really know their stuff. They're really good fans. And, then I obviously married her and, her whole family are diehard Colts fans. I always enjoyed conversations with my brothers-in-law, Joe and Sam, about the Colts, and her parents are Colts fans. And just it's such a neat opportunity for me because I already obviously have strong relationships with Colts fans, and I'm just excited to get to know the rest of them, the rest of everyone listening to this podcast who will read my stuff on Colts.com. And I do have to say, all of the family members on the Bennett side of my family are very excited that we are moving to Indianapolis, to say the least. And I do have to say, speaking of the Chicago pipeline, am I right that there's a Portillo's in Indianapolis?
There are several. There are several Portillo's.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that's great news.
We will go to lunch for sure.
Man.
It's on Knickerbocker. He's picking up the tab.
I'm in trouble.
I'm going to have like 6 cake shakes. That's my go-to.
JJ, I know we just
good.
met. JJ, I know we just met. Mayte, don't judge. Larra, don't judge.
You've never been.
But here we go. Been once to Portillo's.
Well, at least you've been once.
Watch.
What'd you get? What did you get? What did you get?
Hey, went once to Portillo's, and here's my review.
Really?
Okay.
Really?
Well, okay, but
These are fighting words. Listen to Stankovitz. He wants to punch me because I said Portillo's isn't that great.
I just want to know what you ordered.
The famous for. I had the Chicago dog. I know.
Oh, okay. No.
Oh,
okay.
you got to go
Look,
to
their
beef,
Chicago
right?
dog, it's fine.
No. I had both because I bought a sack full of food. I had a couple of dogs in there. I had a couple of the boiled beef, I like to call it.
That's like going to Taco Bell and getting green beans.
You said that with a little
doing?
too much derision.
I did. It's boiled beef, man.
It is tender, juicy beef. And also, by the way, did you get it dipped? Did you get the sandwich dipped?
No, I didn't. I probably should have.
Oh, okay. Well, then you got to go back and get it.
So you're telling me go back with Stankovitz and he'll set you straight on a Portillo's order.
You will have your sandwich dipped in gravy, and it will be much better than the one.
Okay, then hustle your
gravy.
Let's go, bro. Get back from Chicago.
Everything's always better dipped in gravy. Jeez.
Man.
JJ, speaking of food. Now that you're not a native Hoosier, but an adopted Hoosier, where have you gone? Have you had your first pork tenderloin sandwich yet?
I have not. So, my wife's family is in Carmel. They're all from Carmel. And usually when we go there, we kind of
you can get an expensive tenderloin up in Carmel.
but
I'm just trying to think of something to say.
Hamilton County pork hits different.
Wonderful times in downtown Indianapolis at various establishments. And I am excited. Is pork tender? Is that like the Indiana staple?
No, JJ, I'm born and raised here. Hold on, I'm going to get in here.
Here we go.
JJ, I'm born and raised Hoosier. Nothing I'm prouder about in my life than the fact I'm a born and raised Hoosier. I have never in my life taken a pork tenderloin to the face, ever. Never eaten one.
What?
I don't even know how to respond to that.
I want to kind of ask her to leave the studio right now, Matt.
I'm so offended.
You are Miss Hoosier. You're Miss Indiana. You went to IU.
JJ's like, what did I sign up
She's
for?
Also
what
never
is happening here?
She's also never seen Coming to America or Trading Places or any movie that's. I mean, she's never seen Forrest Gump, for crying out loud.
I've seen Forrest Gump. He runs.
What did you say?
I haven't seen like any movies. It seems like Larra and I are going to go along great in just missing every single movie reference.
JJ, Shawshank?
Wow.
Oh, okay. I've seen Shawshank.
Okay,
I have
good.
not.
Okay.
No.
JJ, I'm not sure you and I have much to talk about, to be honest with you.
I love Larra Overton, but I am judging her right now so much. I'm sorry.
JJ, these guys, Larra and Jeffrey, they can attest, when it comes to, my job, I read, I watch, I consume. I'm a huge dork. I organize my notes. I love nuggets. I love little anecdotes, behind-the-scenes stuff. So when the Colts
loves nuggets, yeah.
He does.
When the Colts played the Bears last year, I absolutely was reading your stuff. You very much helped me get ready for that game. I just want to know, like, Adrian Wojnarowski covers the NBA. Like, when he breaks news, it's a Woj bomb. Or Adam Schefter, when he breaks news for the NFL, it's a Schefter bomb, right? When you are breaking news, when you have a scoop, can we please call it a giant stank bomb? Like JJ with another stank bomb.
I will give you 100% permission to use that for every time that happens.
Okay, then let's throw you. Hey,
what
JJ,
about, so what would it be called, though? Because I like digging up nuggets, too. So, like, for instance, here's a fun one that I got in my article, one of my several articles that are on Colts.com that you can read right now about Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is, let me find it. Hold on. This is a good one, and I'm trying to pull it up here.
Your first stank bomb better be good.
Okay, only 4 quarterbacks from 2017 to 2019 had a better passer rating than Carson Wentz at 98.3. That would be Kirk Cousins, Deshaun Watson, and Russell Wilson and Drew Brees.
Stank bomb!
Only Wilson, Watson, and Brees threw touchdowns at a higher percentage than Carson Wentz in that same time span. And only Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers threw interceptions at a lower rate among quarterbacks with at least 1,000 pass attempts in those 3 years. You got all that later.
And Drew Brees, he gone.
Also, another fun fact about Carson Wentz, since I'm just here to show my ability to grab nuggets. He's one of 13 quarterbacks in NFL history to attempt at least 1,000 passes while being 6'5" or taller and weighing at least 237 pounds.
That's like Donald Davidson.
Let me hear it again. Let me hear it again. Wait.
Allister Jr. ate a ham sandwich the day he qualified for the 1992 Indy 500. I mean, that is Donald Davidson stuff.
JJ, stank bomb. Give me another one. Say that over again, please. Please. 6'5", 230. What is it?
6'5", 237. There have only been 13 quarterbacks to be that size and attempt at least 1,000 passes in their NFL careers.
Well, there you go.
Carson Wentz is he's a big guy, and he's very athletic, and he's mobile. Those guys don't grow on trees. That's what I was trying to show here. Other guys who are in that group are Ben Roethlisberger, Cam Newton, and Josh Allen. So pretty good company there.
Oh,
yeah, pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, JJ. Well, we're trying to take you with kid gloves. We know you're early in your career here with the Colts media team, so we're just going to be kind of lobbing some softballs at you right out the gate. Is that all right? Who are the Colts picking at 21?
Really good player. Really good player.
Hello.
They're going to. I think they're going to pick the best player available, who may also fit a need that they have.
Stank bomb.
That ain't a stank bomb, man.
We are a long way away from figuring out exactly what those needs are because free agency is still in its nascent stages.
Well said.
I love it.
Well said, man. Well said. No, I like it. Hey, but you followed this team. We've talked, obviously, a few times before this podcast. You follow Chris Ballard. You follow what he's doing. We talked about something on the show earlier, and I think I did with you. He's not afraid to sit in the weeds a little bit, a couple of weeks even when free agency starts. His method, the way that he goes, he's had a couple of big trades in the last couple of years, DeForest Buckner, Carson Wentz. What do you think about the game plan that Chris Ballard runs as far as not making huge Twitter splashes on day one of free agency?
In my experience covering the NFL, it's the strategy I see, it works a lot of the time, where a lot of the teams that go in early are the ones that are really trying to cover for need, right? And that's not to say the Colts don't have needs. They do. Every team has needs. I like, look at what he did last year with Xavier Rhodes, where it was, 10 days into free agency that he signed, I believe. Did it with Justin Houston, another player who wasn't in that first wave. You can find really good players who aren't necessarily in that first wave, who are getting these eye-popping contracts early on. And the other thing is, and I know you guys have talked about it, but Darius Leonard's got to get paid. Quentin Nelson's got to get a contract extension. And you might have to get another one in there, Braden Smith, Nyheim Hines, because the Colts have drafted so well, they have to pay those players and give those players extensions. If the Colts didn't draft as well as they did in the last couple of years, then they might need to be more aggressive in free agency. But when you draft well, you take care of those players. Chris Ballard has shown a history and a desire of doing that. So when that is on your radar, you aren't necessarily always going to be super aggressive early in free agency.
Another question for you. Hard-hitting. Better journalism school, Syracuse or Missouri?
Oh, come on. It's Missouri. Look, Syracuse is great. Northwestern is great. Indiana is great. I applied to Indiana, and I chose Missouri because I liked the fit there. I also really liked the fact that our football team was number 1 in the country by freshman year in 2007.
It's a good recruiting tool.
Eberflus, who was the defensive coordinator for them. I am so pumped to get a chance to talk to Coach Eberflus and bring up names that have probably never been mentioned on this podcast, like Stryker Sulak and Andrew Gatchgar.
That's a first. Those would be first.
Those are stank bombs.
There are going to be some Mizzou grads who are listening to this podcast who are going to have to pull their cars over because they're like, I haven't heard that name in so long.
JJ Stankevitz on Twitter. I'm going to give you the handle here. Real simple. JJ Stankevitz. Stankevitz.
Real simple, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Again, JJ Stan.
Welcome to Jeffrey Gorman, where nothing is simple, JJ.
I got 7 years.
Wait, hold on. I got one more question. What does JJ stand for?
John James.
John Jr.
Not John Jacob.
Did you just answer for him?
I thought it's John Jr., right?
It is not John Jr. My dad's name is James.
At JJ Stankevitz as in Victor, ITZ as in zebra. Follow him on Twitter. He is the latest member of the Colts media team. Okay, let's talk a little football. Frank Reich, what do people think when you're working for the Bears down there in Chicago and you've got to come up here for a preseason game? What's the outside? I know you're with family with Colts, but what do other teams when they take a look at Frank Reich and the job that Chris Ballard has done and watching Andrew Luck walk out the door a couple of years ago looking for a quarterback? What does the outsider think of the Colts?
Very highly. And I can tell you from covering the Bears, there is not a person I came in contact with at Hallis Hall who did not have extremely positive things to say about Chris Ballard, because obviously he has roots there with the Bears in his past. He is so widely respected around Chicago, around Hallis Hall. But as it relates to Frank Reich, I think people see like you mentioned, a difficult hand that he was dealt with Andrew Luck, and not having that quarterback stability to be able to make the playoffs now in 2 of his, I'm losing count of what year it is, 2 of his 3 seasons with the Colts. That's really impressive for everything that this franchise has gone through with that position. And quite frankly, 2019 from afar, the work he did that year with Andrew Luck and, having his retirement during that Bears-Colts preseason game, the work that he did with Jacoby Brissett that year and getting them competitive, like that is so rare in the NFL when you lose the guy you think was going to be your starting quarterback right before the season. To be that competitive, that was, to me, that was just as impressive as making the playoffs the last 2 years. And to make the playoffs with two different quarterbacks, to have a different starting quarterback in each of his 3 years, that is a difficult hand to be dealt. He's handled it extremely well. That's the impression I've got, certainly from talking to a lot of people around the league. And, I know some folks in Philadelphia too, who, as soon as I took this job, they're just like, you're going to love, Frank and covering him and working with him. Comes very, very highly regarded from around the league.
Yeah. Colts.com, all the information you need. Also download the Colts app. We are in day one of NFL free agency, the day one of the NFL year. And again, happy St. Patrick's Day. And moves will be coming. So I want to go around the table a little bit. JJ Stankevitz is our guest here with Matt Taylor, voice of the Colts, and of course, Larra Overton. I want to go around the room here really quick. We lost a heck of a player. We lost a heck of a player in Danico Autry, going to our rivals down in Tennessee. Stuff like that. There's other guys that are out there. People are talking about, we see T.Y. Hilton on social media. Matt Taylor, I want to start with you. How big of a hole is that to fill with Danico? We saw what he's done when Ballard poached him from the Raiders.
Yeah, it's certainly something that you're going to have to contend with because, A, you lose him off of your team, but you also have to battle him now twice a year with the Tennessee Titans. And we talked about it on podcasts prior. This is a guy that has a lot of position flexibility. He played inside. He can play outside. He had 20 sacks over the course of 3 years, and he very much outplayed his contract that he signed in 2018. So this now, again, pushes all that depth to the forefront because Justin Houston is also a free agent. Al-Quadin Muhammad is also a free agent. But outside of that, I mean, Tyquan Lewis is a player that's, again, played inside and outside. He's looking to find a consistent home. I think I'm leaning more towards him being an interior defensive tackle. We'll see. But there's a lot of kind of onus on guys that the Colts have invested very highly in the draft, now kind of stepping up to the forefront. And Kamoko Toure and Ben Banogu, those players last year combined for 1 sack and a couple of quarterback hits. I mean, Banogu was inactive for 8 of the last 10. Kamoko Toure, start of the year played, start of the year on PUP, kind of played sparingly until later in the season. And Chris Ballard at the end of the season said that he wasn't even 100% because of that injury that he suffered in October of 2019. So I'm not saying those guys can't step up and they can't be, double-digit sack players as immediate as 2021, but that's a lot of production. I mean, Danico Autry is a really good football player. As we know, Chris Ballard puts a value on everybody. It was just a little bit too rich for his blood on Danico Autry. You wish him success outside of 2 times a year, but that's a good football player that's no longer on your football team in 2021.
You mentioned Kamoko Toure, and he has stuck around. He hasn't left. He's been putting in the work. This is a guy who is incredibly locked in this offseason, sees that he has an opportunity, and still does very much have that chip on his shoulder because he was playing at a high level prior to that ankle injury that he had, that devastating injury. So it's very interesting to be able to see him around and just see some example of how committed that he is to trying to get back to 100% and make major contributions to this team. One other note, Jacoby Brissett signing with the Miami Dolphins. So thrilled for Jacoby because he's a kid who grew up in South Florida. I can't imagine anything bigger than being able to play for the team that you grew up watching. You're essentially in the backyard of. So a cool opportunity for Jacoby as well. And just hours after that was announced, he was still tweeting about charity initiatives in Indianapolis and ways that he's still, continuing to commit to all of those, various community organizations that he was so strongly affiliated with here. So excited for Jacoby to get that opportunity back in his hometown, be with his family down there. We know that he did so much off-season work down there as well as the work he would do in season here in Indianapolis. So that's another move to address right there, Jeff.
Absolutely. Well, we're winding this thing up because moves are going to be happening. So far, Jacoby's a Dolphin, Danico's a Titan, Carson is a Colt, and we're waiting on more things to happen with this free agency, so you have to be patient. So a good chance for us to kind of look around the room a little bit, see what we got, get excited about Carson today. But again, more...
And
JJ
Stankevitz
gave us a stank bomb today, too. So we're what I'm saying is this. we'll always have a lot of information for you here on the podcast, but we get dated sometimes. So you got to go to Colts.com, and you also have to download the Colts app. JJ Stank, I appreciate you doing this. Welcome to Indianapolis. We're going to have a lot of fun covering this football team, and I hope to see you on a stage somewhere at a Super Bowl in the next couple of years watching the Colts hoist a trophy.
Or Portillo's.
Or, you know what? Let's just start with Portillo's and work our way up to the Lombardi. But I don't.
You know what? I like that.
Lombardi's
Baby
better if
steps.
you dipped it in gravy. I don't know.
I'm not gonna say it again.
Hey,
but
you can toss it off boats. So
he's got to change my heart because I looked at it as a bun with some boiled beef in it. So I've got to go by you and definitely have you make the order for me. JJ, appreciate it, brother. We're going to be talking to you a lot.
JJ.
And again, you follow him on Twitter at JJ Stankevitz, just like it sounds. He is the new Colts media member. We're going to have a lot of fun. Guys, I got to wrap this up because more stuff is going down that we are going to have, hopefully, a couple of short special edition podcasts coming up in the next couple of days or a week where we can talk about some of the new additions that are happening here in Indianapolis. Follow him on Twitter at Maytay Colts. He is the voice of the Colts, Matt Taylor. At Larra Overton, my name is Gorman. You can follow me as well at Hey Gorman. And again, a big thanks to JJ Stankevitz for joining us today. A lot more moves are happening in and around the league, and we're going to bring it to you. Folks, we do it week in and week out. We welcome new friends in like JJ and welcome old friends like Miss Larra Overton and Matt Taylor. Guys, have a great couple of days. I'll see you at Portillo's.